Good morning, guys. So this morning I wanted to talk to you guys about makeup brushes, and there's plenty of videos out there that talk about how to use your makeup brushes, the different types of makeup brushes to use. So that's not what today is about. Today is about cleaning your makeup brushes and taking care of them. I've been online and I've looked and looked and looked to see, what kind of things people are doing to keep their makeup brushes clean. And the reason why I chose to do this, even though there are lots of videos out there about this, is there's none out there that talk about cleaning your makeup brushes when you're sick. This weekend I clean my makeup brushes like every week, every Saturday like clockwork, because I know I'm not going to be putting any makeup on after Saturday morning through until I go to work on Monday. However, this weekend I was super sick. I have an upper respiratory infection, which you can kind of hear, and I didn't clean my makeup brushes. So I went back to work on Tuesday and I was putting my makeup on and I was like, ew, this is not good. Well, I know that when you're sick, you brush your teeth. If you use a regular toothbrush, you can boil it in water with a little bit of vinegar or baking soda and clean it that way. You can dip it in some bleach and then rinse it really well, let it soak out that bleach, and it gets rid of germs, stuff like that. I have an electric toothbrush, so I have to do, the bleach thing, because I can't just replace it. I can also replace my heads. But with your makeup brushes, it's a little bit different. So any of you who have been in health class know that our skin carries bacteria and germs. When you're sick and you're blowing your nose and you're coughing into your arm, stuff like that, you're actually just pushing that back onto your skin. I clean my face at the end of the day every night when I come home with an aloe vera from their aloe vera facial cleansers from Yes2. I love them. They're good for my skin. They don't make me feel all dried out and crinkly, especially in the wintertime. And so I thought it might be important to talk about, making sure that you clean your makeup brushes when you're sick, because then you're just spreading those germs onto your makeup brushes and then back onto your face. So we don't want you guys to do that. We want you guys to stay healthy. And so here at Family Savings Fund, we're going to talk about cleaning our makeup brushes. So I have a couple of different methods in which I clean my makeup brushes. Every day when I use my makeup brushes, I use this little thing here. I just bought these are just little dish scrubbers, and I got them at the Dollar Tree for $1. I think there was 5 or 6 in a package. And I just put it in this little box, and when I do my eyeshadows, stuff like that, I just scrape my brush across it and it cleans the brush out pretty good. Okay, just like that. So every day I do that. I do that with my powder brushes, my eyeshadow brushes, stuff like that. But if you use a brush, and I'll show you the brush that I use this brush by e.l.f. Here, and I'll zoom in on this in just a few moments. But I use this e.l.f. powder brush for a foundation brush because it's perfect. This is natural hair brush from e.l.f. It was $3 and some change. I've seen them at Target and Walmart and Gordman's. If you have a Gordman's in your area, you can get them there. But I use this for my foundation. And when you're using a foundation brush, you can't really use it to clean out the foundation on this thing. It just doesn't work. So I have 3 different foundation brushes that I use. This is the one that I use today, so I thought I would just go ahead and clean this one. And it hasn't been cleaned since Saturday, so it's probably pretty gross. So you want to make sure that you have a couple of these to clean, for your foundation, and that way you've always got one that's being cleaned and one that is being used, and you can kind of swap them out. I found that most makeup brushes, when they're natural fibers or natural hair or synthetic, take about 24 hours to completely dry. So you can do this like this morning, and then by tomorrow morning you can use those brushes as a general rule, these thicker ones. Now these thinner ones that we use for like eyeshadows and stuff like that, these only take about 3 to 4 hours to dry, really. So you should have no problems. I have several sets of makeup brushes that I use all the time, so I can kind of rotate through my stock and not have any problems. But for those of you that only have one, I suggest that you invest in a really good set of natural bristle fibers for your makeup brushes, because those will hold up the longest They give the best coverage, they hold the most product for the longest amount of time so that when you're doing it, you're not constantly dipping back in and just wasting product. Three-step process. The first step is you want to wash your brushes out. Some people will tell you that you need to rinse them before you wash them, and then you need to rinse them again. You don't really need to do that. For your powdered brushes, anything that you use with powders, like your eye powder or blush or face powder of some sort, really all you need to do is just this method. And you can buy something. This, like I said, was just $1. This is a box that I had at home. I just stuck 3 of these in here, and I just do this. And it does really good in cleaning out any powder that's left in my brush. And I'll show you how to clean this too. So you want to make sure that all of your brushes have been cleaned out really well. You can do this to make sure, and you would be able to see in the light any powder that came off of there. So this is really clean as far as not having anything loose left in it. The other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a sulfate-free, and I'll zoom in on this too. This is a sulfate-free. So I found this is a great way to do my makeup brushes. You always want to use sulfate-free, especially on natural bristle brushes. Sulfate is a detergent. You don't want to have any detergent because it starts to break down the bristles of your makeup brushes, your hair brushes. So anytime you're cleaning anything that's got a natural bristle in it, make sure that you're using a sulfate-free. And this is a shampoo. Again, it's by Rusk. This is the Deep Shine Color shampoo, sulfate-free. And then you want to have 2 things of water. If you're not doing this like at your kitchen sink or in your bathroom, you want to make sure that you've got 2 things of water. One to put the soap in, and I always use a little bit less than hot, but a little bit more than warm. And that just helps break down any oils that are in like my foundation brush. Since I'm doing this on my counter or on my kitchen table, I also have a bowl here that has, again, the same temperature water, and it's just for rinsing the brush out. So I'm going to move the camera and I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do this, okay? Okay guys, I'm keeping this fairly far zoomed out so you can see everything that I've got here. Here's my shampoo. Here are all of my brushes. As I use them, clear acrylic container so that I know that they've been used. I can see that they've been used, and I can just clean them, bring this down if I'm doing it downstairs, and just clean them. Okay, and then I have the container that has the little dish scrubbers in it that I use for just wiping off anything that's left in my powder brushes, which I've already done, and you can see these are pretty nasty from doing that. And again, these I clean every couple of days, or I don't clean them, I just turn them, and you can see this is fairly clean because I just cleaned these out like last Thursday, so it's not too bad. Okay, so first you want to take your sulfate-free shampoo and decide which bowl you're going to do it in. I just do it like I do my dishes. And you only want to put a little bit in there. You don't need a whole lot. This is like maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of shampoo in here. And then just take your finger and kind of swirl it around. You want to do your water before you add the shampoo because you don't want it to be sudsy. You just want that soap to be evenly distributed in your water. Now for me, I always start out with my powder brushes because I know that my foundation brush is going to make the water extremely dirty. And I don't want to have to change this too many times. So I always put my foundation brush off to the side, and I always do my foundation brush and my beauty blender on the last little bit of water. So I just put those like in the center to let me know, okay? Now, generally I pull out the biggest brushes that I have that I've used, and I set them off to the side as well because those are going to have the most amount of product in it. So I just pull these out. And then again, you can go to a different side on these little things. And you can even pull these out. I just leave it in the box because I'm going to clean these too. So I just make sure, and you can see, I don't know if you can see because this lighting's kind of bad because it's winter, but there's a little bit of product that's flying out of this. So I've cleaned it out with this, and now all I'm going to do is I'm going to swirl this around in my water. Once I've swirled it around, and you want to go straight down, swirl it around, you can go back and forth on the bottom, but don't tap it down because you don't want the bristles to break at where the ferrule is. You just want to swirl it around and go back and forth in the direction that your bristles lay in the ferrule. So once you do that, squeeze the excess out, rinse it using the same method, and this is the super important part, guys. When you're squeezing the water out, reshape your brush to its natural shape. You can see that this brush has a rounded and it's thin. So I've reshaped it as I squeeze the water out, okay? And then you're just gonna set it on the edge of your table or whatever surface you're on so the bristles are hanging off, which you can see here. The bristles are hanging off. The ferrule and the barrel of the brush are holding the brush onto the table. And you just wanna let it hang off so it'll dry and keep its shape. So I'm gonna do the rest of my brushes. And then when I get to my foundation brushes and my beauty blender, I'll be right back with you guys. Okay guys, so let me show you something here. Do you see this right here where I was rubbing this angled brush along my hand? And I did that because those are the brushes that I use for my gel eyeliners. Now, I always rub on my hand to see the cleanliness. So you can see here where I started, it's very dark in the center. And then as I moved out, it lightened up. So then I was able to just use my finger and tell when that brush was completely clean. This one I let soak, and you might have noticed that. This is again an angled brush, and I let it soak because I used this for Halloween to put a sugar skull on my face, and I did not clean it out properly, which was a very bad thing. So all of that gel liner was dried in here, so I just let it soak so I can try and get it to clean out, and if I can't, then I'm going to have to probably replace it. And this was just a cheap little one, but I happened to like it because it gave me a really good line, especially on my sugar skull. So let me see here. And remember that gel liners will stain your brushes. So that's not that big of a deal as far as that goes. But what you don't want when you're cleaning is if it stays stiff, and this one, like stiff with product, they should be fairly stiff. And this one actually came clean, so I don't have to replace it. I just have to clean up the ferrule here. But it is just stained from that black gel liner that I used for my sugar skull. So there's that. So now I'm going to move on to my bigger powder brushes, and I'm going to clean those, and then we'll get to the foundation one. And you can kind of see here how cloudy this water is. Again, I clean my brushes generally every week. It's been about 10 days since I cleaned them, 11 days since I cleaned them. And if you use this method where all of your powder you brush off, your brushes are going to stay cleaner. And that means that there's going to be less cloudy in this water, and there should never be cloudy in this water if your brush is completely clean. So there's no cloudy in this water, it's really cloudy in this one. So let me just clean these powder brushes up. And again, just take the excess soapy water out, rinse it, take the excess rinse water out, and as you're doing that, just shape your brush the way it should be. I always tend to flatten. I don't know if you can see that. I tend to flatten because as it dries, the bristles are going to expand and it's going to allow it to go back into its natural shape. So let me finish up these brushes and then we'll move on. Now right now you guys are probably looking at my water and seeing that it's getting muddier and muddier. Remember that these brushes, the powder brushes, hold more product. These are the ones that we use for foundations, like foundation powders, and also for bronzers and just bigger applications, blushers, stuff like that. So this is going to have more product in it, despite the fact that I am doing this number to get the majority of the product out. So don't be scared, and don't worry about changing your water, because I promise you, if you change your water and you see what happens when you put your foundation brush in there, you may never put foundation on with a brush again. And really, foundation on your brush, foundation application with a brush is actually the best way to do it. It's better for your skin. It doesn't pull the skin, so you get less chance of wrinkles. And then you can just use your beauty blender. Any streaks that you might see, depending on what type of brush you're using, you may see some. I occasionally see them with my e.l.f. brush, like across my nose and in areas like that where I might be a little bit more greasy, because I do have like T-zone. So don't be scared to leave your water just the way it is. Now, if you really want to see how bad your brush is, you can certainly change your water out. I just don't recommend it. So this is my kabuki brush, and you just saw me squeeze all the water out as much as I could get. And then with my kabuki brush, I don't leave it in this barrel shape. I actually contacted Mineral Hygienics, and I said, hey, I need to clean this brush. How do I do this? Because this is the first kabuki brush I'd had. And they said, clean it the way you would normal brushes. But then, once you squeeze the water out and it's in that barrel shape, tap it on your hand and just run it back and forth a little bit to get it to open up, because this is such a thick brush. If you don't, it'll actually mildew in the center. So we don't want that to happen. So just kind of brush it lightly across your hand and get it to open up and flour. And then this one, even though you store your kabuki brush upright, which you guys can't see that, like this, you want to make sure that you lay it on its side just like this. Don't press it down, because you don't want it to flatten on one side. But then, like, if you're home and you're just not doing anything, every once in a while walk by your kabuki brush and just roll it a little bit so the weight of it doesn't flatten it. And you can just set that on your towel like that. So the next thing that we're going to do is the foundation brush. The beauty blender and these dish scrubbers that I use for my powder are going to do in the sink, and I'm not going to show you how I do those, but I am going to clean them, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what they should look like. This is going to be stained. I've had this for about a year and it's stained, so I can't help that. So again, here is my foundation brush that I use all the time, and it hasn't been cleaned in about 5 days, and there's a lot of buildup. Like you can see, I'm not sure if you can see or not, but you can see inside there's a lot of buildup in there from this brush. So I'm just going to sit it in here and I'm going to swirl it around, just lightly pressing against the bottom of the bowl, and I'm just going to swirl it around. And this may take a couple, 3 times to do, especially if it's been a while since you clean your foundation brush. And you can see this water is pretty nasty now. So you can see here, see all this foundation that's coming to the outside as it's coming down. And that's really what you want to see. Now, if you can't get it to come all the way out, and I can tell because I've been doing this for so long, you can see the difference here in the color between the black and the foundation. I'm just going to take this to the sink and I'm going to use really hot water, and I'm going to rinse it really well, and then I'm going to use a little bit of just the sulfate and just kind of like I'm washing my hair, my kid's hair, something like that, and I'm just going to gently rub it in, and then we're going to rinse it a couple of times and I'll be right back. So I've just rinsed it out, and I haven't done anything else but rinse it, and you can see already that a lot of that foundation has come out, but there's still quite a bit in here. Now, before I do this, I do want to talk to you guys about using your sink and letting just running water. You don't want to hold your brush under the sink like this and let it run through the bristles. You do want to hold it down and just kind of press back and forth like you would a regular paintbrush, back and forth to get the product from the top of the ferrule or the base of the ferrule down out of your brush. So now what I'm going to do is, just like I do my foundation, I'm going to put a little bit of this soap in my hand at my sink, and I'm going to go back and forth like this against my hand. And you can see the foundation has darkened my hand here. So it's definitely getting pushed out, and it's coming through and it's cleaning. So I will be right back when this is good and clean, guys. So as you can see, everything is nice and clean, and let me get that in really close so you can see there's no more brownie beige from my foundation on here. It's nice and clean, and I've shaped it out the way it came in the packaging. And you can kind of just run your fingers lightly up the sides to see, and it'll kind of conform back to its own shape, okay? So let me clean up these. Okay guys, so I'm back, and everything is clean and it's laid out, and I'm going to show you guys how I have everything laid out so you guys can really get a good idea of what's going on. So as you guys can see, I have everything sitting off the edge of the table, and it's all lined up, and I have nothing's really touching, like the ferrules might be touching or the barrels might be touching, but the bristles themselves are not touching each other. That's really important because you don't want any like connection there to keep it from drying. You want that air to flow smoothly around it. And then over here is my kabuki just laid on its side, and then the things that I had in this for brushing off my eyeshadow brushes and my blusher brushes. And then at the very end there is my beauty blender. So just a reminder, a beauty blender is a sponge, so be very careful when you're cleaning it. Using soap, don't use too much, and squeeze it really good. Squeeze it out, squeeze it out, squeeze it out, squeeze it out, squeeze it out. And that will get all the soap out, all the bacteria out. And again, because it is a sponge, you really want to use just like a drop or two of bleach to kill any germs that might be stuck inside that sponge. My general tip is, if you are sick, don't use a sponge, but you know, that's my tip for me or for you guys, but do I follow my own advice? No. So if you do, just use a drop or two of bleach to keep it nice and cleaned out. Make sure you rinse it really well, and there you go. So in about 12 to 14 hours, all of these brushes will be dry, and I will put them back, restore them where they belong. Brushes, guys, always store my brushes. Always store your brushes upright. Don't let them stay on their sides unless they're in a case, because if they roll around, they can get dirty from other things, and they can get misshapen. So try and always store your brushes upright after they're dry. So I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing how to clean your brushes, make sure that they stay their shape, and understand that this was mostly inspired just because I was sick this last weekend, and I knew that my brushes would have the germs and bacteria from me blowing my nose and coughing and that blowback onto my face, because it happens, guys, and I don't want to keep getting sick. I don't want to stay sick, so it was important to get all of these cleaned out for you guys as well as for myself. So I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye now.